why DNA is so important is because it basically is the software of your cell. It describes exactly how your damage, how all of your proteins are going to work in your cell, whether they are going to make liver cells, whether they are going to make skin cells, whether they're going to make proteins that help with taking the glucose, the sugar from your blood, yes or no, whether your skin is white or not, whether in my case you have blue eyes and blonde hair or not. So all of that genetic information is in every single one of our cells, and it is all down to the fact that it is in a particular sequence just like this. So your DNA is made up of 4 letters, and they really are letters. They are A, T, C, and G. And in this case, they are unfortunately not the most vibrant of colors because the back is vibrant, but they are here white, black, gray, and green. And the sequence is incredibly important. Just like letters in a word, the sequence of those are also incredibly important. So for instance, if you took the word crying and you change one letter in that word to a T, you would get trying, and the meaning of that word is incredibly different just by changing that one letter. Can anybody else come up with another example where when you change one letter in a word, it changes the meaning completely?
Road and toad.
Road and toad. I must remember that one. That's quite a good one. Thank you. So the reason why I'm discussing this, I guess, is because radiation, when it hits your DNA, it actually almost cuts your DNA, and it could cause a loss of that genetic information, which could completely change the meaning of your protein, and it could change how a cell acts. And so I'm going to start off with the orange group. Did anybody say that radiation does nothing at all in a cell? So we have one orange, another orange over there. We have a few oranges. So if I'm to say DNA does nothing in a cell, why am I saying this? Because we've all been told radiation is bad for us. Well, the reason why it might not actually do anything to our cells is as follows. So here we have my smaller DNA helix, and they're all in a particular sequence. Now, when radiation hits it, I really must learn to do this quickly, right? When it hits here at the bottom, what happens is that this genetic information has now been cut away from the rest of my DNA helix. My radiation has done that. Now, I've just said that actually radiation doesn't always mean that there is a detrimental effect to your cell. It could just sometimes not do anything at all. And the reason for that is because we have these policeman proteins in our cell. What they do is they hunt around the cell and they look for whether or not your radiation or anything, in fact, has damaged your DNA. If it has, what it does is it stops everything in the cell. It doesn't care about making these proteins or growing or dividing and making clones. Instead, a cell then goes, oh, we have a problem here. The basic software of me is kaput, is broken, and I must fix it. And so your P53 protein, which the P stands for protein and 53 is the weight of it. We're not incredibly inventive of naming proteins. It wasn't me though. And basically what it does is it goes, come on, we need to go fix this, and it does that. Lots of proteins then find the fault in our DNA and they fix it. And the way that they fix it is because they know that my black letter always has to match up with my white letter in this case. So A and T's always fit together, C and G's always fit together, and that's how it can fix the sequence back into place. So although your radiation has damaged your DNA, in actual fact it doesn't mean that it has completely damaged it forever, because it could get fixed in exactly the same sequence it was before, and then nothing happens to your cell. Now, something else that could happen is that in actual fact your DNA could swap the other way around. So your P53 policeman protein might actually not quite get the code completely correct, and rather than matching up my black letter with a white one, instead what it does is it matches it up with another, with a black one. That would work. So now this time around it's fixed it according to, it looks structurally fixed, but in actual fact the sequence is different. But that doesn't mean that your protein then stops working. In actual fact, your cell could probably still survive a few of these mutations, a few of these changes in your genetic code without any aberrant effects at all, without anything wrong happening to your cell. So that is orange. Your DNA does not necessarily mean, if it's damaged by radiation or anything else, does not necessarily mean that something bad is going to happen to you. Then we're going to go on to red. Did anybody choose red as DNA damage by radiation is bad? So we have a few reds. They were equal to oranges, which is interesting. So yes, we know that radiation is bad for us. We know that when we stand out in the sun, it could increase our risk of cancer, of skin cancer in this case. But why is that? Well, the quick and easy answer is that in actual fact, the first time you probably get irradiated by the sun, nothing will much happen, because it will be the same situation as this, where you have very little DNA damage, but in actual fact, it gets fixed, or it gets fixed a little bit wrongly, but it doesn't change your cell outcome. If you stand in the sun a little bit longer, or over the years, you get hit by the radiation from the sun over and over and over again. And then in that case, what would happen is then you could, for instance, get the complete top of your DNA helix missing. And now because you don't have the backbone, you don't know how to fix it. And so that genetic information is just gone. And that could change how your proteins start to work. So in all of our cells, we have proteins that are involved in growing our cells and cloning it from one cell to the other, and including our genetic information. I'm currently growing a baby. This baby grew from one cell, and it will grow to look like all of us with 5 fingers and 5 toes and everything else. And the reason for that is because the genetic information in every single one of our cells encodes what the cell will make. It will say to the cell, okay, you're going to be a liver cell, you're going to make toenails, you're going to make hair this color, etc. So when the sun hits your DNA over multiple times and that genetic information is lost, then all of a sudden these proteins that are involved in growing cells and become uncontrolled. You get too many proteins in your cells that say, cell, you must grow, 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 grow. And that then turns into a tumor. That is basically what a tumor is. It's a ball, it's a mass of cells that have just cloned too quickly before other cells have died that they were meant to replace. So that is how radiation could be bad for you. So we have our one option. Radiation does not necessarily mean that your DNA damage is bad. That was orange. The red is that that radiation damage is bad for you because it could cause an increased risk of cancer. And then I had a third option, which was green, which is radiation is good for you, surprisingly. So we have a few greens. Why did you say green?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Right, great answer. It's good. Fair enough. So that's why I'm here to tell you guys why I think that radiation could actually be quite good for you in certain situations. We should bow. So radiation being good for you, the reason why I'm saying that is I work at St Thomas's Hospital, which is just down the road, and we use, as well as many other hospitals, we use radiation all the time to image diseases, to see whether we have cancer in the first place, for instance, or any other type of disease, and also to treat cancers and tumors, which is surprising because I've said, well, radiation can cause cancer if it leads to this uncontrolled cell growth. But the beauty is if you use radiation, you harness the power and make it sort of like an X-Men of your cell. What you could then do is you could obliterate, absolutely ruin all of this DNA such that there is no software for the cell to grow anymore, and instead you're killing the cell. Does that make sense? A few nods. Okay, so the way that we use radiation in the clinic is very much like hook a duck. Obviously, does anybody know the game Hook a Duck? Very classically British. So here I have 4 ducks. I also need 4 volunteers, please. And you will be hooking a duck each. Yes, another one. Please do come. We have 3 volunteers. One more. All right, so if you could all race to get yourself a duck. Go, 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 go. One more! Hey, round of applause. Well done, guys. All right, now, so I have 4 ducks. Can you all see whether you have something written on the bottom of your ducks, yes or no? What do we have?
No.
2 no's?
Yes.
1 yes? 2 yeses. What's written on the bottom of your ducks? A C. A C in both cases? Yes. You dropped your C. Okay, so we have a situation where we have 4 ducks, 2 of them are healthy and 2 of them are cancerous in this particular case. And what we've done by hooking the ducks is irradiating this tumor. And what I want to point out here is that a tumor is not just made of cancer cells, it is also made of healthy cells. And the problem when we start irradiating healthy cells is we start damaging them. And this is what leads on to what I do for research over on the other side of South Bank. I try and find different ways of targeting radiation just to the cancer cells and not to the healthy cells, because when we start killing the healthy cells, that's when we get all the nasty side effects that you often see with radiation therapy. All right, so if the 2 without a C, put it back. The other 2, if you could give them to us. Thank you very much for your help. Then we have, if we could get a few more volunteers, those that didn't get a chance. 1, 2, yep. There must be some adults who'd want to hook a duck, surely. So now what we do at work is we basically sticker our ducks, our cancerous ducks, with lovely orange stickers, not quite, but we make use of the fact that cancer cells express proteins. They show proteins on the outside of their cells that healthy cells don't have. And what we can then do is we can use some clever chemistry to have something that binds just the cancer cells and not the healthy cells, and attach radiation to those, to just the cancer cells in that particular way. So rather than irradiating all cells, we're only going to be irradiating the cancer cells, and therefore making sure that the healthy cells don't die, and therefore minimizing any side effects that we could have from radiation therapy. So if we're going to put them back in, we need 2 more volunteers. 1 more, yep. You coming in? 1 more. 1 more, come on. All right. So now there are 4 of you. This is our tumor. 2 of them are clearly our cancer cells. If you could all race to get the cancer cells, not the healthy cells. Yeah, there we go. Well done. And that is the end of my spiel. I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, please do come and ask. And for those of you who like candy necklaces, this is my DNA sequence. Think of me when you eat it. Your DNA sequence will change because the pattern of colors will change as you eat every single one of those lovely sweets. Thank you very much. Thanks.